All right, cool. We are live on YouTube. Very exciting. Let's go ahead and get this posted out to the Discord, and
Hold
we'll go
on,
ahead and get started.
I just got a crazy YouTube video recommendation. One sec.
Is it us?
No, no, it was proof of Ash's dad in the cartoon.
Oh my God.
It's like
Those are your
50
YouTube
seconds.
recommendations that come up, huh?
I just had to watch it real quick. This is why I'm up till like midnight sometimes.
Just YouTube rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Happens to the best of us.
Okay. At everyone.
There you go. Did you just type in at everyone? I think I just got the notification. That was great.
Now that we actually have a community, I might be more interested in trying streaming again on Twitch here and there.
That'd be
It'd
cool.
be fun
I
to
think you
stream
got a
us
natural
playing
audience.
like TFT or something.
Yeah, oh yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great
Yeah.
for the fans.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So we are good
Dude,
to
I
go.
don't get
We'll go
it. I
ahead
can
and,
see you on the
clap it.
stream, but I can't see you here. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's really just a
Riverside.
weird Riverside issue. All right, so we are ready to go. Let's go ahead and clap in. 3, 2, 1.
We were
Perfect,
on
perfect.
target that time. Cool. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, we're back, baby.
We are back.
Get it out. Get it out. All right. Hey, everyone, it's Matt,
And this is Lucas,
and this is Thanks for Playing.
the podcast where we break down the most iconic video games the world has to offer. Yep. Yep.
Little
I like that one.
quieter. It's later right now, so I don't want to be too loud for my neighbors.
Yeah, you covered your hands, you backed up, you did a different variation there. That was cool.
Tried to add a little bit of vibrato.
It worked.
Thank
It
you.
very much worked.
Yeah. Dude, I was driving to climbing today, and I saw the billboard you were telling me about.
It's
You want to
hilarious.
tell the
right?
audience about it? Yeah.
So, I guess is it? I think it's Sunset.
It's off.
Um,
It's off Sunset. Yes.
Yeah. So in Hollywood, off Sunset, there is the Netflix building. I believe there's 2 Netflix buildings. They're just giant buildings, kind of from one block to the other. And there's a billboard outside of one of the buildings, and it's a billboard for a book. And the billboard says, "Are you interested, Netflix?" or something. And it's basically prompting the people like that work at that Netflix building to look outside their office window and see this billboard to buy the rights to a book. And it says like expandable storylines, like it's trying to sell Netflix like the idea that this could be a TV show. It's pretty
I appreciate
shameless,
it.
pretty great shameless plug right there in front of the building.
I'm honestly a big fan of that kind of marketing too. I knew a guy in college that was working really hard to get a like intro job into kind of like copywriting and marketing, that kind of stuff, for like ad agencies. So he went to downtown San Diego, around where most of the bigger ad agencies were created, and he made his own like Snapchat filter that people could use. That was basically like a mini resume for himself. So stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, stuff like that is pretty sick. And yeah, I really hope whoever put that billboard up gets that deal, because
I know.
they earned it in my book. I need to look at it more closely. I'm curious about what the book is. See if I can.
I had
find
not
that.
heard of the author. I think it's like a spy thriller book. I don't know. It seemed
Sounds
pretty
great.
Yeah, it seemed cool. Yeah, interesting things you see when you're driving around LA. A lot of great billboards. But
Alrighty, but a little before we dive in today, everyone, because we're getting a little inconsistent on when we bring this up. So I want to just do it right off the bat. Everyone, if you haven't already, leave a review for the podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcast. Leave 5 stars. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you hate, but still leave 5 stars, because we need it for the algorithm. And tell us like what's what Christmas present from your childhood or Lucas and I that's very specific. It might tell us a lot about you, but I want to know. Um,
I
and if you have
definitely want to
any
know as well.
questions, comments, concerns, complaints, shoot us an email. Thanks for playing pod at gmail.com. As well, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TP Podcast at CP Podcast and S at the end. And you can find links to our Discord as well in both of those link trees on those respective social media platforms, as well on our website, nextplaying.live. And I gotta say, we've actually really been pushing the YouTube content lately. We're putting out more shorts on YouTube. We're doing more reels on Instagram and more stuff on TikTok as well. So come hang out. Let us know if you like what you're seeing. Let us know if you don't like what you're seeing. I want to know. I want to know.
I would like to know too. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, glad we got that out of the way.
Yeah. It's so. It was just there was so much I had to say just now. It makes me want to drink water out of my cup.
Man, that's the best segue we've had all year.
That's right, everyone, because today we are talking about the number one 1930s cartoon simulator, Cuphead.
That is
Skibbity
right.
bop, bop, bop. I gave a little early skibbity bop because I feel like
Yeah,
that's jazz infused, and
yeah,
this,
yeah,
this game is
totally.
just so much jazz and so much fun. And fuck,
Yeah,
Cuphead.
that's right. The 2017 run and gun 1930s cartoon inspired co-op game developed by Studio MDHR, led by Chad and Jared Moldenhauer. 8.8 from IGN, 9.5 on EGM, 8 out of 10 on GameSpot, and an 88 out of 100 on Metacritic. Um, wow. Awesome, awesome, awesome game. Me and Matt played this game co-op, couch co-op, at my place over the course of, was it 4 or 5 sessions that it took us to beat it?
I think it took us around 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah, we just kept playing it. We knew it was going to be a hard one. I've been wanting to play this game since I first saw it, E3 2015. I was still in college. Feels like so long ago when I first saw the game and instantly fell in love with the look. And I think the look of the game, the 1930s cartoon style and animation, is what draws most people to take a look at the game in the first place. And then as we kind of went through our sessions of playing it, I fell in love with the game design itself. Always been a fan of these games in this genre, and man, I was really blown away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to talk about it, but I really want to focus in a little bit just kind of on this studio and these developers. So the studio name is I think you mentioned MDHR, so Studio MDHR, founded by two brothers, Chad and Jared Moldenhauer. And I just think this is such an fascinating and incredible story because I feel like so many of the bigger games really out there today are from people with some sort of like, even if you're not a AAA studio, at least some sort of formal game training. Take the people or take Outer Wilds, right? Very notable game, but started as like an indie project for people training for that in college, right? But this game, this is just two guys with a love for video games their whole life, and they're just like, all right, two brothers, we're gonna make a video game.
Yeah,
Let's do it. I mean, these guys, they're pretty nuts. Honestly, they took out loans against their home just to be able to like
yeah,
pay for like living and paying to do these like the game and just everything. And um, no prior game experience, developing experience, no professional training, or any sort of education in game design. All self-taught, and just so incredible. And what I love too is the developers, the studio rather, is almost like very family friend owned. I want to say
yeah,
family slash friend owned because I mean literally just even the guy that did their like produced their jazz music, or like I think the composer, excuse me, was like one of their friends growing up from down the street or something like that. So just such a very tight knit studio it seems, and just a very incredible story of two guys that just kind of risked it all because they thought they had a good idea and just kind of went for it. And I think this game was a development for 4 years, 5 years. How long was
Yeah,
this?
it was a long time. Yeah, it had a really long cycle. I think they started in 2012 or 2013,
2010.
and
Excuse me.
oh, 2010.
Hmm.
And the game they set out to make, so that's a 7-year development cycle.
Yeah.
The game they started to make was initially a very small game. They wanted to do 8 bosses. If you look at some early builds of Cuphead, it was very different, a lot more basic. They had a few key ideas there, but they knew they wanted to have a look that was inspired by rubber hose animation, 1930s cartoons, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop, things like that. And they grew up as brothers playing a lot of co-op running guns. Gunstar Heroes, Metal Slug, Contra, Ikari Warriors, games that I also grew up playing somewhat. So it's kind of a natural love. And honestly, I cannot believe that they went full on and committed to the animation style. These brothers clearly have dedication and love for the craft.
Yeah,
Very, very clearly.
absolutely insane. And before we dive in any further, I would like to give a brief explanation of the game, just so the audience, in case you're not too familiar with Cuphead, so you have a good idea of what we're talking about and what we're going to be discussing for the next, give or take, 45 minutes, hour. So, the player or players control Cuphead and his brother Mugman on Inkwell Isle. These two fun-loving brothers wander off from their home, enter the Devil's Casino, and begin playing craps. After a hot streak, the devil comes out to raise the stakes for the game. If the brothers win, they get all the money in casino. But if the devil wins, he will take their souls. So naturally, the brothers lose and are left begging for mercy. The devil makes a deal. If the brothers can collect soul contracts from all his ordinary debtors, by the end of the next day, he might spare the two of them. So, the brothers begin their quest to try and collect the contracts and save their souls. Fudge.
That's right. So the game turns into basically a boss rush type of game where each level is a series of bosses that are in debt to the devil. So you're kind of collecting the souls for each of these bosses, and then there's kind of intersparsed. There's not too many of them. There's only about 6 of them. Run and gun levels that allow you to collect coins, which lead to you buying upgrades for the boss levels. But it's a boss rush style game, and the bosses are hard. This is a hard game for sure. It's a difficult game. A lot of people are really enticed by the cute, kind of cartoony nature of the game, and then they play a little bit of it, and they're like, "Holy shit, this is a hard game." And I think a lot of gamers that happen to for sure.
Yeah, I was just talking to some people down there, like, "Oh, this game looks cute. Like, I think it looks fun." And I'm like, "You don't understand. Like,
Yeah,
it's not fun. It,
yeah.
it is fun, but like, you don't understand. It's stupid hard. It's not cute. I'm like screaming at my TV. It's just like, it's a lot."
Yeah, yeah. So for me, and I know this is where we differ as gamers, and some of our audience members have really caught on to this phenomenon. I love these kind of games. Like I really, really do love extremely challenging, classic bullet hell style games. I like trying and dying and trying again. A couple of years ago, I played through Hollow Knight, and I'd say Hollow Knight was harder than this game. At the end of the day, and completely different game, but it's the 2D reaction-based, memorization-based style of fighting, heavily geared towards boss fights.
Hmm.
And I loved, I know that it was challenging for us even as a group, or me and you co-oping through it. But I mean, I loved every single second of trying to overcome the challenge for sure.
Yeah, no, it's very rewarding when you start to like things start to click and you start to get through the game. But something I love too was I was watching an interview with the brothers Chad and Jared, and they were talking about how that while the game's like certainly not easy, they also didn't really consider it to be that hard. Because when you think about older games, like whether it's Battletoads or even something that I think you and I have very recently both tried playing is
Super Mario.
Super Mario Brothers. They're saying how like, you know, try going back and playing the original Super Mario Brothers. Like you're not going to beat it most likely. Like the game is actually very very hard. I remember. Fun fact, everyone.
We tried.
We were supposed to do it for the. It was supposed to be a podcast game. We're like, oh, this will be sick. This is like one of the OG games when people think of video games. This will be fun, but I couldn't beat it without using save states. Like, there's no way I would have beaten that game without using save states. And Lucas is just like, didn't want to use save states.
What's the
and
point?
Just like, what's the point? Yeah, like we can't even beat the game. So, That I think that just kind of emphasizes how well this is a very hard game. It is one where you can definitely learn patterns, and it's not like that. Most of the bosses are like unreactable. Like you can still
Hmm.
react to them as well as you're learning the patterns. It just takes time, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely want to talk about that in game design for sure. There's so much to unpack there. Um, it's very clever, truly. Like you said, I mean, I know it's a challenging game, it's a hard game, but like you fight the boss. You know, you don't have to go through a full level and go through all this war of attrition with your health bar and then fight a boss at the very end. And then if you lose
Right.
to that boss, you run out of continues, you're at the title screen again. You know,
Yes.
it's not an it's not an unforgiving game. You know, it's actually very forgiving in that
Mm-hmm.
in a way because, you know, if you lose, you can hit retry. It's a very quick reload time. You just jump back in, you just play the boss again, right? And it never really feels, there was rare instances where I felt like things were just straight up unfair. I felt like everything was fair. You know, like really, like every boss telegraphed every move that they were gonna do.
Yeah.
It was hard, but you always had a chance to dodge something, and I thought that was really well designed game stuff going on
Yeah,
there.
the only ones that felt very or even slightly unfair were ones where you just get the most terrible mixture of RNG. Like there'll be
Yeah,
some bosses where once you realize what attack they're doing, it's very predictable, but the order they do certain attacks within their moveset might just like fuck you over it in one instance or not. So
yeah,
there were a lot of things like that, particularly in the last boss, of course, the devil that we fought. That
yeah.
was very difficult. And before we dive into kind of like game design and stuff, Lucas, I want to get your opinion on. We're just going to dive into spoilers pretty early here, but what did you think about the false ending, kind of, where you do give the devil the soul contracts?
I didn't really get the point of that. That was kind of a weird one. I think it's just a way to sort of. I feel like it's a little bit of a trick on the gamer to give them a way out that's not going to be very satisfying. Because one thing, and the brothers did talk about this, Jared and Chad, in reviews from these brothers, they've really kind of hit stardom level with Cuphead. And IGN has a great unfiltered interview. The one that you watched, I forget which channel had done that one, but really great resources to learn about these brothers. And one of them, I think it was Jared, had mentioned that you know, although something can be challenging, it's always really great to overcome a challenge. And you know, when you play some of those old games that they used to play, the Contras, Ikari Warriors, Gunstar Heroes, um, you know, it was always nice to beat the final boss and beat the game. It felt great after all the memorization and all the patterns and everything. It was always great. But in Cuphead, you technically can beat the game without killing the last boss. It's not a very satisfying ending. In fact, it's very unsatisfying. But you technically beat the game. You get a credit
Yeah,
screen. And I think that's kind of them maybe being a little coy and saying like, yeah, you beat it, but you know, did you really?
I know. And then
uh,
you get the ending screen and you get like demonic music playing when you go back to the title screen of the game. So,
that was freaky.
yeah, yeah.
That was freaky for sure.
I remember you looked at me terrified because we did the that just to see what happened. And I remember
Yeah.
I thought like, oh fuck, did it just delete our original game save as punishment or something? It's like, do we have
Yeah,
to restart?
that was that was scary. We just jumped right in
Yeah,
and fought the devil
yeah.
right away.
Thank God, no worries on that one. But I mean, when you first started playing this game, Lucas, what jumped out to you on it?
Yeah, I think for everybody, just like you know everybody, it's really the art style that
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
game in
and
the
that's how
very
you
first
first
place.
hear about it, really too. Is that's like what made waves about it was just the art style.
Yeah, look at this art style. I mean, it basically got them to deal with Microsoft that took them to the next level. Because, you know, Cuphead had a very long development cycle. But then once it was shown at E3 2015, it was like really like, oh, wow, this is going to be a really huge game. And that was already 5 years into their development cycle. And by that time, Microsoft had seen it, wanted to get it for Xbox exclusively for a little while. And it was just like a big deal, you know, and it's purely the visual that we're seeing, right? It's like people knew that'd be a run and gun game with a 1930s cartoon aesthetic, and that was enough. It's pretty insane. That's how good the art style
Yeah,
really is. But as we kept playing more of it and fighting more bosses and going through more levels, I really started appreciating the game design itself. I thought every boss was, and there were so many bosses, and bosses are always the most fun part of games, right? And every boss was so well designed. Like every boss had unique phases. You knew how far you got when you died on a boss, which like is kind of this psychological way of saying like you were so close. One more try, you can
I
get
would have had
closer.
such a bad time if they didn't have that feature, actually.
I know, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, for sure. And I don't know, everything about the game is fair, and I think that revealed itself over time, which I really, really liked. But what about you? What are some of your initial thoughts?
I mean, yeah, it's just holy animation, and then it's just after you get over the beautiful animation, it's just the holy crap, what is this game? Because I mean, most games, the first boss isn't going to take you 30 minutes, but here it did, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Did it
just,
take us
it's
30?
give or take, probably not that bad. But it's also we got some of the later ones, but definitely was not easy for us. Obviously, it wasn't like we got anything on the first try, right? Just a very, very jarring game, but in a very good way, and a very,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, um, and you really don't see a lot of games made like this anymore. I feel like, and for better or for worse, a lot of stuff is more focused on graphics and that AAA style of gaming, whether that's a Dark Souls game or whether that's Horizon or God of War or these newer titles coming out like Ghostwire or even the ones we see year over year, right? Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty. Cuphead is a very unique entry into the gaming history. I think no matter where you look at it, and no matter even where you would put it in time, really, because I think even if you release this game 20 years ago, it still would have been remarkable. If you release this game, at any point in
Yeah,
time, it's going to be considered a remarkable game, which I think is just so wonderful.
yeah, absolutely. It's funny because when you think about its design and kind of where the gaming era that these brothers come from, really growing up on like Sega Master System, Super Nintendo, and a lot of early consoles, really playing the Metal Slug, these run and gun games. Um, Cuphead, not that much has changed. It's just been like refined a little bit, right? Like instead of having to, challenge the game, quote, challenge the gamer by kicking them back to the title screen when they die, or making them lose lives, then run out of continues, and you have to beat the game in one session. Now they're like, hey, let's get rid of that and let's just make it all boss fights, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's the challenging part. That should be the most challenging part anyway. So the brothers really took like the actual core gameplay that's been around for a long time with run and gun games and changed the context that that gameplay exists in. So instead of having
Yes.
to hit a title screen or boot up a game, you just open up your file and continue forward, fighting the next boss. And it feels so much more better to play a game like this. Like if we tried to play some of the original Contra games, we would have
Oh,
horrible time playing those games. It just wouldn't. I think that most people would. That's where the nostalgia factor really runs out for me. Is like, okay, this game is actually just very annoying to play, not fair, in my opinion. But the brothers definitely knew that when they built Cuphead, and I just love that they knew where they were coming from and they knew where they had to take the genre, for sure.
yeah, and I think the setup of the boss rush was so important because before we actually dove into the game, the first thing you and I, or before we really dove into the first boss, the first thing you and I did was one of the run and gun missions to try and get some coins, and
Uh-huh.
I thought, oh fuck, is the whole game gonna be like
Yeah.
this? Because those were just very very hard, and honestly, relative to the boss fights, just not that fun either. And for context, everyone, what we're talking about with these run and guns is they have just running gun missions more akin to something like I guess Contra, like you were saying, or like a Super Mario's round where you have like a starting point and an end point that you have to run to and get through all the enemies up to that point. And it was just very very hard and very very difficult. Thankfully, not required unless you really wanted to get a lot of upgrades, but definitely a unique little part of the game that I'm glad we didn't have to
Do all of.
do all of and suffer through for sure. But um, yeah, I mean, it's just such a. When did it click for you, Lucas? I'm curious because we shared this experience together, so I'm really curious when it finally came in together for you and when it came together for me.
Yeah, I think the moment you get your first few upgrades, and you realize that you have specific loadouts, because the tutorial level shows you all the basic move options that you have. You have a dash, You can fall through platforms by holding down, crouching, and then jumping, and you fall through a platform, and then you can parry. And you could shoot. So it's a very simple thing. And then if you shoot an enemy enough times or shoot a boss enough times, you can build up meter, and then you can perform a special. If you have full meter, you can perform a super. So nothing crazy as far as game mechanics go. I mean, it's as standard as it comes, to build up special meter and stuff like that. But I think that the game develops like sort of a meta design from a player, like player choice meta ends up occurring when you realize that like there's all these different weapons that you can get and all these different loadouts you can start running, where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this loadout, this gun is way easier on this boss than this gun, right? Oh, you know what? You know it's gonna be better for this boss, the Invincible Dash. Oh, you know it's gonna be better for this boss, the auto parry. So when you start realizing certain loadouts are gonna work a little bit better, I think that's when the game clicked for me. And you realize like, wow, they really did take it a step further with the genre by letting you choose all those loadouts in that way.
Yeah, so for me, none of that factored in at all. For me, um, the game finally clicked when we got through Fuckface, as we affectionately
Oh,
refer to him to, also known
yeah,
as the clown boss of the game.
yeah.
Um, take a place at like the amusement park. As I don't know what it was, but I mean that was a very hard boss in general. I think you would agree. However, something about that boss just wasn't clicking for me mentally. Like I could not. My brain just turned off, and I wasn't able to. Like there are very obvious indications of movements that they would make, and then it's like, oh, they're clearly about to start this attack pattern. And for whatever reason, for like a good hour, I just was not picking up on anything. And it wasn't for lack of like me not paying attention or not trying. I just was like, something just wasn't computing in me in there. I hit like a mental roadblock. I don't know, but once we did finally get through that portion and get through the boss, I was like, okay, I am namaste. I'm ready. My mind is clear. I understand what I have to do. I can beat this game. Um, so that was my weird personal cathartic experience of when it
Oh
clicked,
wow,
I
I didn't
guess.
know it was
But
such a deep
I was getting
experience beating
bogged.
this
I was
game.
getting. I was in a dark place that night.
He
um,
was really really hard. He was, I think, the hardest boss besides the devil.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what really brings the whole game together is just the incredible game design, right? I mean, at its core, it's fairly simple, right? It's just run and gun and bullet hell. And the main focus is the gameplay itself and obviously the art and animation, but there's not really a very big overlying story or anything.
Oh yeah, not at
it's a
all.
very basic. It's a very unique little universe with very unique characters. Yes, however, it's not a deep story by any means. Yeah.
There's zero story beats in it. There's no twist. There's nothing. It's just,
Yeah.
there's an inciting action, and then there's a resolution, and that's it.
Yeah. But I think what is so important about games like this is that it's hard, but it's not unbeatable by any means, right?
Hmm.
In the game, it's not like a Super Mario Brothers, or it's not like a Battletoads or something where it's not even
Original
reactionary.
Castlevania, original
Yeah,
Batman, yeah, all those old
it's
games.
if you put in an hour on a boss you're stuck on, you will eventually learn the learn the patterns well enough to where you're able to react accordingly and get through the boss. And they have a great mixture of just power ups too that keep things interesting. And as you are playing the game, kind of mentioned this earlier, but you do start to see, oh, in this situation, this would be better for this boss, or in this situation, we should, have this combination, whatever it may be. I mean, and so much of and to give everyone an idea of how much these can matter. At the very final boss of the game, the devil, Lucas and I spent probably 30 minutes? No,
Three,
3 hours on it, excuse
three
me.
hours on them.
3 hours on it until finally at the end of the game. Because at this point, Lucas and I, neither of us had enough points um, or enough coins within the game, which is the in-game currency, to get any new power-ups, and we didn't want to have to backtrack to get new ones. And my loadout was like a shotgun, which is a short spray, a high damage, energy-based attack. And Lucas's main one was a chaser, which is just kind of like a weak but a really good auto homing missile or auto homing gun. And at the end of the boss, I'll be honest, Lucas was just better at this game than me. I think he has a little bit better reaction, so he was just lasting longer than me in these boss runs typically. And it got to a point where I was just like, okay, you're lasting longer than me. You need the shotgun, but I have the shotgun. What do we what are we what are we gonna
There
do
was
about
only one
that,
thing.
right?
There was only one
Yeah.
thing to do, really.
So of course I just gave Luke's my controller. I took his controller, and then we beat the boss after like 4 or 5 more runs. But my favorite part of that too was I think I didn't want to admit that was the. I think
That was the
halfway through the
problem.
boss battle, I knew that was what we needed to do, but I didn't want to admit that was the problem because I remember there was like maybe we were only like an hour in once we saw like the certain phases that we could get to. Because it's like a 3-stage boss fight, and there's a point where we weren't even getting to like the last phase for like a good hour.
Yeah.
I think because we were so bogged down. I remember I was just like, "Hey, do you have the shotgun?" He's like, "Oh no, I never got it." I was like, "Oh, word." Like, oh,
And
okay,
it's like,
it's fine. Like, I just know
yeah,
what we
let's
need to
just
do. But
keep
I'm
going.
like, we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and then eventually, and then you were like, I know what we have to do, and I knew what
Yeah.
you were thinking, and it was like, yeah, let's switch controllers. Let me give.
Yeah.
And like it worked. I mean, basically for that last boss fight, it was like you need the shotgun because you just need to power through really fast. And
Hmm.
those side like demon things that are flying and shooting skulls at you are just you have to kill them immediately, like as fast as you can with a shotgun. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just too much damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
it's
probably
hard.
one of my favorite moments of the game because I brought it up and you just immediately knew you're like, yeah, we got
Yeah,
you.
that was great.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
said, though, I mean, other than that, there weren't really any other moments in the game where we really had to switch up our loadouts too much. There is some where maybe I switched from one gun to another, but for the most part, I sticked with the standard gun and the shotgun the whole way through, and an extra health. And then you had your invincible dash with the chaser and the normal gun, which, my God, the invincible dash is so good.
I know it is. It's very, very good. And so was the auto parry. The auto parry I think was underrated. Like there was that one ghost train
Train,
boss
yeah,
where the auto parry was basically the thing that we were able to do the game with. It
yeah,
was that, and there was another auto parry heavy boss, and I just think that there was probably a good mix of power ups that you can run and do very well with certain bosses. I did see there was like a speed run of Cuphead in like 23 minutes, a dev reacts speed run,
yeah. I saw that
and the
one
guy
too.
was running two guns that we never actually got. It was like the boomerang gun,
Hmm.
and then the bouncy like yellow gun, I think it was. I forgot. I don't know the names of those guns, but basically it was the maximum amount of damage output that you could possibly do by like switching as fast as you can between these two different gun styles. And this guy was like doing so much damage to bosses that he was literally skipping phases.
Yeah.
Like the slime boss, he killed it in like 30 seconds. It was crazy. And that boss, like we struggled with for sure when I first played him. Um,
Speedrunners are
but
fucking crazy.
yeah, yeah. I
That
mean,
shit
it's a
blows me
whole.
away.
I
If you beat
know,
a game in
always.
25 minutes, it took us like what, 10, 12 hours. Those
Yeah,
always blow me away so much.
totally. But since we're on game design, I'm gonna dive into a few things here. Three key points on the game design that I want to really dive into, and this comes from a YouTube channel, great video on Cuphead, the Game Maker's Toolkit. It's an awesome YouTube channel. I know I've brought it up before. They have an episode on Cuphead called "How the Cuphead Bosses Try to Kill You," and they bring up the three main categories on memorization, reaction, and skill for the Cuphead bosses. Now, they do bring up all the kind of old style of video games like Contra or these other run and guns that simply did rely on learning game patterns while not getting hit and not dying. And in the old school games, how you'd always get booted back to the title screen and it just pretty much never felt good. Um, and there was so much memorization in those games back in the day that it became less reactionary and less skill based and more keep throwing myself at the problem until we fix the problem kind of
Hmm.
vibes. And I think what Cuphead is really great at is it mixes up all three of those things to a like masterful degree, to the point where take for instance the boss, the one that's like three mini bosses in one, like Baroness von Bonbon. She's the one that's in like the Candy Castle, and
Oh,
it's actually
yeah.
three mini bosses and then the castle that you fight. And there's three mini bosses that you fight in three different phases, but those mini bosses are,
Hmm.
but each one of them attacks and moves in a very predictable way. And on top of that, they during each one of those phases of those mini bosses, there will be an additional variable of something that's getting thrown at you. So the first boss you fight could be like the candy corn mini boss,
Hmm.
right? It's just a one-on-one candy corn mini boss. You just fight him. Then the next boss is the gumball machine, and then the next boss is like the chocolate waffle guy. And the interesting thing is that the depending on when you fight one of those guys, it'll be hard or really easy, right?
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
fight the like you're like, "Oh, this candy corn guy is nothing. I could just dodge, jump here, move that way and he's dead in like a second." But if you fight him for the third phase, you're going to have a gun getting shot at you cuz she shoots like a shotgun at you. You're going
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
stuff falling from the sky. So it's like it's some RNG, but there's still a
Well,
heavy
exactly
reaction
right.
and
Yeah.
memorization, you
That's what
know.
we were talking about a little bit earlier with how there are certain patterns. I mean, every attack is in a pattern that you can eventually recognize and can react to, but it's that RNG, and that's the factor of okay, will I be able to dodge this, or am I just gonna get fucked over by a barrage of bullets in a really unfavorable setting?
Yeah, exactly. And like, let's say you have like three different attacks coming at you. Attack A, which is very easy to dodge because it moves in a slow, predictable projectile way. But then you have projectile B coming at you, which comes from the top, goes down really fast, but projects itself very clearly. So now you have two variables that you have to watch out for trying to dodge them both. And then add variable three on there, which is a stupid fucking homing missile that the boss shoots like and explodes in a giant hitbox. And then you're like, okay, that's bullshit. You know, it's like, then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I get it. That's hard. I can do it, but I now have to consider this third thing that's coming into my view. And oh my God, you know, it gets this point where like combinations of variables and
Yeah.
combinations of memory um, and combinations of reactions. And I think it just gets really, really fun when you finally do push through and get it out of the way. But difficult, you know, nonetheless. So love that game design. And for those of you interested, again, Game Maker's Toolkit's a fantastic YouTube channel, and I every time they have a video related to a game that we're playing, I always try and check it out. And this was titled "The Way Cuphead Bosses Try to Kill You."
Yeah. So I did see that one. I just haven't had the chance to check it out. But yeah, sounds like a great little supplementary content for the fans
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
But yeah, such a. I mean, just to wrap it up on game design, such a good game design. My only real critique is that I think, I mean, for the most part, like you never switched off the chaser at all during the game. I
Yeah.
think the chaser was a little too obvious and too easy to use. It's not too easy, but just it was a little too good in certain situations, I think, because it just basically allowed you to go totally on autopilot and not worry.
Just dodge.
Granted, it was weaker, but you got to focus totally just on dodging, which was a very big deal because there's at many points certain bosses where you may, because you have to aim your gun at certain points, or with the shotgun you have to get up close. There may be certain points where you have to put yourself in very unfavorable spots to be able to do damage that may end up causing you to get hit. So a little bit of a critique for me, but overall, otherwise, like great mixture of guns, power ups to use, and ways to mix and match those to approach bosses and all that good stuff in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. I know we've talked about it a lot pretty much since the very beginning, but now we're on the art style section. And I'm not sure what to say. It was amazing. I thought it was really, really great.
Yeah, I mean it's all hand drawn, then like just scanned in for the animators to like work on. I think with like rigging it, but yeah, just so unbelievable, all hand drawn, and there's something about the 1930s art style of those cartoons that I don't know how to explain it. It's almost just more of a feeling, but it just feels warm. I feel like to explain,
Mm-hmm.
like even like forget the fact of what we're experiencing, right? It just feels safe, almost like just a very warm, like familiar feeling. So I love seeing that art style. Granted, like it's not in a very safe setting this time around with Cuphead, but I really, really enjoyed just kind of diving into that. And I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to say like, oh, nostalgia, because like I didn't grow up with these cartoons, and neither did you, or cartoons of that era per se. But something about it just feels familiar. I don't know if you agree with that, Lucas. But
I
and
do.
they're all yeah, and they're all the only little shortcut they took they did mention was um, they did do all the coloring digitally because they quoted, yeah, that shaved about 5 years off development time, which is like, okay, that's probably about right, fair enough. Um, but yeah, other than that, everything was hand drawn, sketched, and yeah, absolutely incredible.
Seriously, I mean, I think the one of the things I do want to bring up on art style here is, when it comes to this style of animation, and a lot of times this type of animation is referred to as rubber hose animation. All like the characters, the bosses, and everybody you're kind of playing as, it feels like they have more of a freedom with this animation style to um, change their anatomy, squish down, get taller, have their limbs expand, have their eyes pop out of their sockets and things like that. I just think that this type of art
They can
style
be much more
lends itself.
expressive that way.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Makes
this
it
type
feel
of
more alive.
totally, totally, and I think this type of art style more of the ability to do that as opposed to like, let's say if it was like pixel art style, or if it was like six, it just wouldn't feel as good to see like the intro to the devil like boss fight is him like winking at you, or like his eye he comes like very very close to the screen, his eyeball is huge, and it just looks great. Like I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
that can really look as good in a different type of art style. So I think Cuphead does certain things that other art styles wouldn't be able to do, because it's coming from this context of like 1930s rubber hose, kind of crazy, wacky,
Just
flexible style of
zany,
art.
yeah.
Yeah, and I did hear this really great talk. It's the Game Developers Conference (GDC) in 2017. Jake Clark, who is an animator at Studio MDHR, he did a talk at the Game Developers Conference on the animation process and philosophy of Cuphead,
Cool.
and sort of all the concept art, and just like every little thing was seriously talked about in detail when it came to the art and the animation for Cuphead. Everything. They went through like dozens of death animations for that mini cigar boss, um, which you could actually beat the game without ever even seeing on the dice level, in the casino.
Yeah.
Just the death animation for that boss, which, like, you know, the death animation's great, but who's really paying attention to the game after? I mean, you beat the level, and you're like, thank God, you're not like in awe of the death animation
Yeah.
usually. And it took a month just to get that down. And I just love the level of detail, the number of ideas that they had. If you look at, I encourage everybody, look at the different iterations of the bosses that they had. Um, had tons of different iterations of what she originally had a pirate ship on her head,
Oh,
apparently.
really?
Yeah, and then the animators realized it was going to take too long to animate the pirate ship, so they're like, okay, let's just do hair. So
Toned
yeah,
down a bit.
yeah, pretty interesting stuff there.
Yeah, and I think we've gone on specifically a lot about just the how incredible that the fact that it is hand drawn, but I do want to bring attention as well just to the design itself, right? Like all these characters that they came up with, just how they look are incredible. Like and how just unique some of these are. Like the Medusa character, there's so many unique characters just that come to life so well in this rubber hose is what you called it, right?
Rubber hose animation,
Rubber
yeah.
hose animation. Just so many beautiful sets you get to play the game on, and so many just so creative and imaginative characters. It was just a blast to play through them all. And I looked forward to seeing what every boss looked like.
Yeah, totally. I look forward to every boss and then every phase of every boss. It was always a
Hmm.
really fun thing to
And
see.
the transitions too are always so smooth, and I think that's a credit to um, the rubber hose animation. It just all flows so well. It just flows so naturally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tons of freedom there. Tons of freedom. Cool. All right, sound design.
Fuck.
Yeah, we go ahead. You could start.
It's just so good. I was listening to it. I was doing my notes for the podcast. It's just like this fast paced jazz, and I don't know. It's the soundtrack you want. Soundtrack. It's the soundtrack you'd want playing when you're going out to go do something with your boys. Like you're up to no good, right?
Yeah, it's definitely
Like
club. It's definitely club music for sure.
yeah,
Like
like
hype music.
1930s club hype music, right? Like you're all just running down running down the streets of New York, snapping and snapping and synchronized snapping, just cigars in your mouth, about to go into the 1930s prohibition
Wearing a
speakeasy or
suit.
whatever. Wearing a suit. Was
Yeah.
prohibition in the
Breaking the law.
1930s? I don't remember, but
1930s, I
was that
believe.
still
No,
prohibition?
20s. No, prohibition was the 20s, I believe. Wait,
Okay.
no, the Roaring 20s. Then prohibition?
When
Oh
did
God, did the
prohibition
Roaring
end?
20s happen during prohibition?
No way.
I feel like we
Prohibition
should know this
ended.
one.
Oh, it did. Prohibition was from 1920 and 1933. Wow.
So everyone during
There
the
you
Roaring
know.
20s was committing a crime. Can
Yeah.
you believe that?
So this is 1934. You're rolling down the street with your boys, about to go to a bar with some jazz music playing, and I don't know, maybe Johnny does something crazy that night. I don't know, maybe I don't know,
Makes a deal with the devil.
maybe he makes a deal with the devil. Maybe he forgets to pay his tab, and you guys get chased down by the mafia. And oh, Johnny, just like I don't know, something about it. It's just such fun music that just makes you feel like you're up to no good, but you're having so much fun while you're doing it. I can't.
Yeah.
I love jazz in general too, so it was just so fun to play too. And there were so many moments while you and I were playing the game where we're just like, fuck, this
thing
music is
slaps.
good, as we're like getting fucked up by a boss.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
um,
great. I love it too because I feel like a lot of games can't get away with using this kind of soundtrack and have it make as much sense or feel as good or fit as well. And like everything about Cuphead, it was
I mean,
like,
if it's perfectly with the animation as well, right? Because it is that
y-
older style.
Yeah, totally. And like there was in no world was this the wrong choice. You know what I mean? It was like almost the choice. Like there was no other way to do the soundtrack other than a big live jazz band playing the songs. You know what I mean? And it like the animation and the era that they're going for, the 1930s, it makes sense. The music itself is great. Um, Even like down to the care that they had. So you mentioned it earlier how their old childhood friend did the compositions, jazz compositions for all this, and even there's like different mixes. So let's say you fight a boss, there's a different mix, and one mix might have like a drum solo, and the other one might have a sax solo instead. So even while you're playing a boss, it won't technically be the same track. You can get the sax solo version of the track, which is incredible. I mean, just for them to even like find a way to have variation of the songs that they're going to do and have it still stick within that jazz, like jazz is very well known for having solos, drum solos or sax solos, in the middle of the song, and they still do it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, so good. Yeah, that was one of my favorite little just facts I learned when I was researching, was just the fact that, yeah, they did have unique bosses or unique soundtracks even within boss fights, which is just nutty. Which is crazy too, because what always blows my mind about stuff like that is there's so much work that went into it that might not even get appreciated, right? Because maybe you beat the boss fight in one or two runs, maybe you're really good, and you don't hear that second variation of the music, which is such a shame, but such a neat little thing if you do end up, probably as most people did, having to play a boss, 5 or 6 times at least, right? So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
awesome.
All right. NPC award. There's a lot to pick from here. Every boss is an NPC. So for me, and I could start, I'm just going to go with my favorite boss, Grim Matchstick, the dragon. I loved his animation. I loved him as a general concept. I think he looked great. I loved his backdrop. His backdrop is actually a real life model castle that they did an animation of a camera, stop motion camera going around. It's pretty insane. I think he was a challenging boss. He was hard, and he was really fun to beat. So he's my NPC award. He also has a lot of personality and 3 heads. So that was super fun.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. My
What you got?
favorite was actually one of the mini bosses from the King Dice boss rush. The monkey, like I don't know what you call it, but the monkey that
I think
that
his name
claps
was,
the 2 symbols together. You know what I'm talking
I
about?
forget his name. We saw his name on the card in the game. Symbol. It's like symbol or something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah. But that it's honestly probably one of the easier. So for context, everyone, the King Dice boss battle, which is the second to last boss fight before you get to the devil, is like a boss rush of a bunch of King Dice's minions that go down pretty easily, but you do have to learn their patterns still and everything before you fight King Dice himself. And it's just so there was this monkey one, which the setting is you have to like flip cards by pairing them to match them up. And then once you match two cards that are the same card, then you can fight the boss and attack the monkey. And it's really not hard. It shouldn't be hard to dodge the monkey. It's a very basic pattern, and it's just like, okay, just move away from it. But I don't know what it was, but it was just
You couldn't figure it out.
It was just in my fucking head, man.
So
I could not.
The way it moves, just so everybody here knows, is that like idle screen of the DVD logo, like bouncing from like this corner of the screen to that corner of the screen.
It was
to
a
that corner of the
little
screen.
more random than that.
It was like no, it was literally that. It was literally just moving from one spot to the other, bouncing around. But I mean, I had trouble with it too a couple times, so I can't say anything really. But that was the pattern.
Yeah, I know. It was just, and then as some of our viewers probably know by now, I'm a pretty big weeb, so it just brought me back to like Attack. I was about to call it Titanfall, Attack on Titan, where as anyone who has watched or read that manga knows, good old Captain Levi has a very big hate boner for Zeke, who turns into basically a giant monkey Titan, and I won't say when, but there's one spoiler alert, slightly one line in the manga where Levi just screams, "There he is, that fucking monkey!" And that was me in this boss.
Literally,
rush. Whenever we got to that round, it was just, there he is, that fucking monkey.
I can attest.
And it was brutal, but it was fun, and I was just so satisfied I got through that. Yeah.
I can attest to that. All right.
Yeah. Oh, and I have one more honorable mention in PC Word, actually.
All right, let's go for it.
I got to give it to you. You were a player in the game, I felt like, and Cuphead was a player in the game. Specifically Cuphead, because for me, that was almost an unplayable character.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just got to give you credit, because you carried pretty hard at some portions of this game, so
thanks, man.
That.
There was points we kept calling it Ultimate Gohan or like Ultimate Lucas. Like I remember there was a moment where we were so close to beating the clown boss, which I keep forgetting his name. We were so close to beating him, and I remember the first time I got to the final phase, I was just dodging out of my mind like everything, and I remember I was just like zoned in, and like my eyes were just like I just went straight Super Saiyan on this phase, and I feel like I was like screaming like the whole time I was dodging. I was screaming in my head for sure, but I thought you were hearing it, and and then I got hit by the last thing and died, and then like everything just like I just yelled like fuck. Like it was crazy, man. And there was like a few moments like that where like it just kicked in, like adrenaline pumping for sure. But yeah, that was fun. Thanks for the NPC award.
There were just another side note too. There were so many moments in the game too where like we were getting fucked really badly at a certain point, and like we would just be like, don't talk to me, like
yeah, that was great.
Lucas, like, just shut up, don't talk to me. Like
that was hilarious stuff. All right, man. Hit us with your companion piece pick.
So mine might be not. Well, I kind of have two, if that's okay. One is I forgot to write it down actually, but I had it. It's a Ghostmane music video, Mercury, which is, I don't know if it's like proprietary art that Ghostmane had done, but Ghostmane is like, actually no, it's definitely not proprietary because it has Betty character, but Betty Boop, but it is a Ghostmane music video with rubber hose animation style playing over it or on behind it as the music plays over it, and it just is so interesting because he's kind of like an underground rap artist and is like not demonic but like pretty just I guess intense that like wouldn't really fit and like you won't catch this guy at Outside Lands is my point. and it's just very interesting hearing like that kind of music played over that kind of animation. So I recommend that as a more close to home companion piece. And then I have more wholesome companion piece. Mickey's Once Upon a Time, or Mickey's Once Upon a Time Christmas. Mm-hmm. Came out in
Love that.
1999. It's the Christmas season. It's really not even Rubber Hose. I just kind of am saying that because it's kind of inspired by it, because it's like that's where that Disney animation started at. But great little Christmas flick to watch with your loved ones, significant others. But really recommend it. I remember watching it with my family growing up on like VHS. It's a good one. Heartwarming little like mini anthology series of like each of the main, you know, characters in Mickey's posse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sounds great. I think it's time. It's definitely the season for something like that.
Hmm.
So love that we're getting this out there in time.
Yeah.
My companion piece pick is going to be the 1940 animated film by Walt Disney Productions, Fantasia. Um,
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched this movie. I have been watching it the last few years around Christmas time. There's a certain moment of the night on Christmas Eve where on Christmas Eve I usually stay at my parents' house and we have dinner and maybe open up a few gifts. And now that everybody's a lot older, no one's in a rush to go to bed early for Santa and things like that. So I'll usually stay up and watch a movie by myself. In the last few years, I've thrown on Fantasia just as something to kind of wind down to. And it is just a feast for the eyes, for sure. For those of you that have never seen it or never heard of it, it's basically several segments, several acts of Disney animation, no talking, no dialogue, and just kind of orchestrated music set to it. And has the very famous Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mickey in his wizard hat, accidentally causing a ruckus with some beautiful symphony music playing.
Hmm.
Really just some wonderful animation, and it should be seen as a real like kind of poster child for this style for Disney. And it was released so long ago. I mean, 1940 was many. And I always love kind of coming back and watching it on a Christmas Eve night when things are slowing down.
And it still looks great, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks incredible for sure. It is mind blowing how it looks for sure.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Favorite moment. You want to take this one? Start.
Man, see, it feels like a cop out to say the end when we beat the devil, but it kind of is for me. And it's not a knock like, oh, we finally made it through the game, um, but beating it, what like I stood up out of my seat and was like, we did it. And it was like I know that we both shared the same sentiment. I know I sent you that Rick and Morty clip, uh,
Hmm.
right when we kind of beat it, and I really it was like this big cathartic feeling. For those of you the Rick and Morty clip, you can find it on YouTube where Rick and Morty just get into the what is Rick's machine called or
Just the ship.
yeah, the ship. They get into the ship and they just scream and just like cry, and Rick is like, I was not in control at all that whole time. That was pure luck. And he's like, look at my hand's shaking, Morty, look at this. And Morty's just pure crying. And
I
that
think
was me and
my
Matt.
favorite part of that too is as I was looking at the video, I was just scrolling through the comments to see what people are saying, and one of the top voted comments was just fucking one of the top voted comments was just when you and your friend beat Cuphead.
Yeah,
I was
that was
just like,
solid.
yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, loving it. So for mine, I actually had when we beat the train boss.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, because
I like that.
it was one of the only times that I really felt like that we really just figured out a boss and we really just had it down and had it set and we were like, okay, we got it, we're good, and nothing to worry about. And I don't know, that was just like a probably one of the more biggest moments that it really did click, I guess, to be, which is kind of sad because it's so late in the game. But um, I was very satisfied with how well we were able to handle that boss.
Totally. I think we broke
Yeah.
down every pattern very quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
like I had a very clear role, you had a very clear role, and we kind of figured it out. So yeah,
Didn't
I
need
like
to
that
do.
moment a lot as well.
Yeah.
All right. Nitpicks. What you got?
Not really too many. I think at certain points it was. I think the chaser was a little too good, which
Hmm.
was a little bit of a bummer. I think that no, well, good and bad, but I think that no online multiplayer was a bit of a bummer because I know this is a game we wanted to actually do much earlier for the podcast, but
Yeah.
I was living in San Diego and you were in LA, and it just wasn't convenient for me to obviously, or either one of us to go to come down like 2 weekends or 3 weekends in a row to try and beat this game. And I'm just still surprised that hasn't been like added in posthumously um, as like an extra feature. Pretty weird in my opinion, but also cool because it does encourage you to go play it with a friend, which I think is great. But something that just really still bugs me and kept bugging me was just the randomness or the lack of randomness with the dice table at the end of the game when you're fighting King Dice. So, for context, I know we've referenced it a few times. The way this boss rush works is you enter King Dice's casino and you go onto a craps table and you roll die on the craps table. It is a three-sided die, so 1, 2, 3, no more, no less. And depending on what you roll, you move up set amount of squares on the craps table. So I think there's like 10 or 12 squares on this particular craps table. Some squares enter you into a boss battle. Some give you just like a one up. Some are like a save, like a pass. And then at the end of it, you can either land on one that's a start over or one that is finished, which then takes you into the final boss battle with Mr. Dice himself or King Dice himself. But I didn't like that because well, here's the thing.
It didn't matter.
It
It
didn't
didn't really
matter.
matter. Yeah.
Because I don't know the whole thing with the dice and like you're in a casino and it's craps, right? It's really just a game of chance, right? And you could the dice rolls weren't random. Like I mentioned, it was only numbered 1 through 3, and you could easily pick what number you wanted to get by just um, getting lucky with your or by just timing your jumps into the roll because the way you rolled the die was parrying it out of the guy's hand. And you could very easily say, "Oh, I need a 3 to get to this most optimal spot," or "Oh, I want to skip this boss, so I have to roll a 2," and then you just parry the 2. So that was a bummer for me, and I think for you as well, because I mean, it was a perfect chance to implement some sort of like randomness because there were so many points where I mean, up to that. I mean, it's a casino, right? And I think at that point, with all the hard bosses you've gone through, you do deserve a chance to maybe get like a really good roll where you just get a bunch of sixes and kind of go through that portion easily. And I just thought it was very lame that they chose to put you into a situation in a setting where having randomness with dice rolls makes perfect sense. But then ultimately, that's just not what it was. So I was a
Yeah.
little upset about that.
Yeah, I agree. Just an arbitrary thing you have to do that doesn't really matter because you end up picking your own path for
Yep.
that dice game anyway. So, yeah, I agree. Um, my nitpick, um, man, see, it's a nitpick, so I guess I can just kind of see it. Is I do wish that there was a little bit more world building in it and a little bit more context for who you were fighting, who they were, maybe a beat or two in terms of story. Because, like I said earlier, it literally is an inciting action and then a climax, and then that's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no build up to another boss. The bosses aren't related to each other. Nobody knows each other in this world, but at the end, you kind of figure out that they all kind of coexist in the same world. Um, and I just thought that there's an opportunity there for maybe these bosses appear in other people's fights or they interact with each other in a more indirect way. Maybe a boss from World 1 comes back in World 3 along another boss. Something like that could have been interesting. I know I'm asking that put their heart and soul into the game. But I think there just could have been a little bit more of that world building built in because it just turns into each individual boss just exists in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that that's the difference is a lot of run and gun games that they Contras, the Gunstar Heroes, Metal Slugs. That's actually the opposite. Is every boss doesn't appear in a vacuum. They're actually part of that world, part of that story, in
Yep.
one continuous storyline. But in Cuphead, they're just not like that. So
Yeah.
that's my only real nitpick with the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah. I mean, like we kind of already mentioned, the point of the game isn't the story, right, or the
Yeah.
anything like that. It's just the fun gameplay. But no, I totally get where you're coming from on that. Lucas, if we see anything in the future from these guys, you gonna play it?
Yes. Yes, I'm absolutely playing more games from these guys. I'm interested. Cuphead took 7 years. So does that mean that we have to wait till like 2025 to play their next game if they are making another game pretty soon? I do know Cuphead. It does have a Netflix animated series coming out, so that's really cool for these guys.
Does it?
Um,
I
yeah,
did not
yeah,
know
Netflix
that.
bought it. Yeah, currently in development. But is the next game going to be another 1930s cartoon style animated game? Is it going to be another hard game? Is it going to be a single player adventure? I think there's just a
Who's
lot
to
of
say?
directions they can go. Who's to say?
Yeah.
But I'll play whatever they make because I think that besides the art, they clearly have really great instincts with game design, especially this being their first game. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited to see where the studio takes things in the future. And yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I will absolutely play anything this wonderful duo and this wonderful studio comes up with because clearly they're doing something right. And I'm really curious if they'll keep with the same art style going forward for the games. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, totally, totally.
And
All right.
they did leave it very open for a sequel too. So we'll see.
There could just be Cuphead too.
Yeah, that'd be fine, honestly.
Straight up. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great. I would love that too, for sure.
Did any part of
Um,
you want to go back and play this game again after we beat it like the next day?
I kind of wanted to like just play a little bit of the first few bosses just to kind of see how easy they were.
Yeah, that's
But
what I
other
was
than
thinking
that,
too.
I wasn't in any interest to pick up the game again. I mean, I was exhausted from the game, so
Yeah.
I mean, I probably, and I'm not really a speedrunner type, but I can totally see how it has good replayability because each level does have that rating scale.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just not quite for me right now.
Love it. Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Final conclusive thoughts, Lucas.
Great game, great co-op. If you're up for the challenge, this game will be very rewarding for you, and it'll be really, really great to see every boss and learn, get better, memorization, repetition. It's just wonderful to look at. So
Yeah, I second ditto everything Lucas said. Grab a friend, play this game. I feel like co-op. I mean, obviously, I think you can have a great time playing this game single player, but I think co-op is a really great way to experience this game. So grab a friend if you can, and hopefully one that doesn't get angry too easily, and come out and play this game. It's a good time. It earns my stick wave approval for sure.
yep.
All right, ratings. Lucas, take us away.
All right, so here is the time for our official rating. Our rating scale, for those of you that are uninitiated, is out of 20. Matt is going to give this a game score out of 10. I will also give mine out of 10. We add them up, out of 20. That's our rating. All right, so Matt, on three, we don't know what each other's ratings are, just to be
We do
clear.
not.
On after one, okay, we'll say our rating.
Okay.
Three, it's always so confusing. 3, 2, 1. 9.
9. Yeah.
All right. That's what I expected from you as
Yeah.
well.
Not a perfect
Yeah.
10. Definitely has a couple little flaws, but yeah, great. Great. 9's great. 18 is great. 18 out of 20. That's the Kakashi guy zone. So,
Yeah, it is.
um, or is that the Naruto Sasuke zone?
No, Naruto Sasuke zone is 19.
Oh, then Mickey is the Michael Legrand code sword is 20. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I give it a 9. I think it's a fantastic game. I don't think it's a perfect game. I don't think it's like I think it's a masterpiece in art style, but I think there's masterpieces. A word I don't want to just throw at it so quickly. I guess is the
Yeah.
only way I can really phrase that one is that. But hey, 9. I mean, that's high on the scale for me for sure, especially considering some of the games we've played lately
Yeah.
that have not been
Very
nines
fair.
at all.
Very fair. All right, everyone. Well, it
All
is
right.
late for Lucas and I right now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. As always, you can shoot us an email at thanksforplayingpod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at TFP Podcasts. That's TFP Podcasts with an S at the end. And as well on the Twitter and Instagram and our link tree, you can find a link to our YouTube, to our Discord. Importantly, the Discord. Coming out in the Discord, we have a fun little community there. Today is a Monday. We actually had our Super Metroid Monday, which is where everyone gives their hot takes on anything in the gaming realm. And it's just a fun discussion. It's good times. Come hang out. Again, you can find that in our link tree links, or you can find it on our website, thanksforplaying.live, and you can find the link there, or shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to give you the link. And if you want to hang out with your good buddy Matt, you can find me on Twitter at Good Idea Matthew. Lucas, where can we find you?
You could find me on the Discord server if you want to come and hang out with me. Again, I think the best way to join the server is thanksforplaying.live. Just type that right into your URL bar in any browser, and you'll find our Discord server link. I'm in there all the time. Usually just kind of have Discord. It's on my phone, it's on my computer. Always responding to great messages. If you need some gaming advice, or you think I'm great at Apex, you can feel free to ask me like Dragoon did, and I'll give my best advice that I can possibly give. Or if you just want to talk about hot takes in video games, or anime, or film, or whatever, we got opinions on everything over here.
Love it. All right, everyone. And let us know if you want us to stream Apex. I think that'd be a fun one. Or TFT or something.
I like the TFT idea because that's a little bit easier to have a conversation.
That's true. Yeah.
We can
All
go
right,
to-
everyone. This has been. Thanks for playing. Catch you next time.